Were the Eagles lucky?
The answer is extremely. Yeah. And again, I want to be clear. They did what they needed to do to win the game. They earned it.
Yeah.
But the San Francisco 49ers had a large helping hand in helping Philadelphia earn the NFC Championship. And I want to be clear. I love this Super Bowl because it's very rare where you get a Super Bowl where the two most consistently good teams all season play for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there were only two teams that went 14-3 this year. They were the two best records in the NFL, and they belong to – and I get it. Buffalo fans are saying, well, we got a game. I understand that, but you also didn't take care of your business when you had a home game against the Cincinnati Bengals. So first home loss, by the way, first home loss under Sean McDermott, and only the second home loss in Buffalo since 1988. They've been 13-1 at home in the postseason.
Wow.
Best record in the NFL over that time frame. So anyway, we have the two best teams from start to finish, from week one that have been the most consistent playing on Super Bowl Sunday. So that's awesome. But let's talk a little bit, because you look at that score and you see 31-7. Oh,
very
God, they
lopsided.
killed them. Here's a breakdown of every single touchdown drive for the Philadelphia Eagles. Their first one came after a 4th-and-3 pass that wasn't challenged and was incomplete and would have been a turnover on downs on San Francisco. 2 plays later, inside the 9-yard line or inside the 8-yard line, they score a touchdown. That drive never should have happened because 4th-and-3, that was an incomplete pass to Devontae Smith upon further review. And Kyle Shanahan, that's on him, because when you saw Devontae get up that fast and go, let's go, that tells you he's not sure he caught it, and he's trying to get away with something. Yep. So that was on Kyle Shanahan, but that's how that touchdown happened.
Let's pause there just for 1 second, though, because the other part of that is, forget if you see that, right? You know they're hurrying to the line. It's the first drive of the game. The timeouts in the first half are not as valuable as timeouts in the second half.
That's correct.
And there's no risk, in my opinion, to risking the timeout on what ended up being the consequential moment of the game. Is that do you agree with me on that? Like,
yeah, look, I mean, the problem was, the officials didn't get it right. And by the way, the two most critical plays in the first quarter, they didn't get either one of them right. The other one was first ruled an incompletion. And oh, by the way, Hassan Reddick said, no, he fumbled that. Challenge it. And Nick Sirianni, to his credit, listened to his players and challenged it, because it was ruled an incomplete pass after someone thought they dropped the interception, but it was an empty hand going forward from Brock Purdy on the injury to his elbow. Mm-hmm. So everybody's complaining about the officiating of the Chiefs-Bengals game. It was bad all weekend. Okay?
I thought it was infinitely worse than the Eagles-49ers game.
I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
It's just that it wasn't a close game, and the Bengals and the Chiefs have Mahomes and Burrow, right? That's a big part of this. So anyway, the 4th-and-3 thing, okay, that led to their first touchdown. Their next touchdown came when 3 times on 3rd down in that drive, the 49ers committed a defensive penalty. And I'm not saying they didn't commit them. I'm just saying I don't think any one of them, except maybe the hold on Jimmy Ward, would have altered the Eagles not getting that first down. So
I will say for the record, and I am overly critical of officiating, I know that. I do think some of them were ridiculous. I thought they should not have been called at all. And I don't mean to derail you there. I want to be very clear. I actually don't think some of them should have been called. I don't think the 49ers committed some of the things that extended those Eagles drives, but please go ahead.
Right. So we had three times on that drive, the 3rd down and a turnover on down situation or a punt coming became a first down for the Eagles. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's their second touchdown. Their third touchdown came when the 4th quarterback San Francisco has played this year, Josh Johnson, who's been in the league since before the merger of 1970. Just kidding. He's been there for 15 seasons.
Yeah, Tom Brady's beaten all 32 teams or close to beating all 32 teams. Josh Johnson has played for mostly 32 teams. Yeah. So when he fumbled a snap that came right to him inside the 17-yard line. Okay. So once again, right after another situation, backed up, defense goes on there and they give up another touchdown. So that's their third touchdown. Their fourth touchdown of the game came after, on a 4th and 6,
they roughed the punter and gave them another first down. The point I'm making is it wasn't like the Eagles just methodically marched down the field and just beat the snot out of the 49ers defensive line. Look, their offensive line, Eagles offensive line played great. Don't get me wrong. They played great. But it wasn't like that was the most un-31-7 game I have ever seen in my life that ended up being 31-7, right? And we say this all the time. Most games are lost and not won. Yep. That game was definitively lost by San Francisco because of the injury to Brock Purdy and their inability to make big stops at big plays. The Eagles did what they needed to do to win. I mean, they weren't given anything. They just took advantage of the opportunities that were presented them by San Francisco.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think where I get the most frustrated, I was very frustrated with Kyle not challenging that 4th and 3.
It's on him.
Play. I think there's no risk. I think if you're worried about the timeouts there, I think you're missing the forest through the trees on that one.
Well, let's take it one step further, right? And this is, I've had people say this, that 4th and 3 play doesn't matter because it was a 31-7 blowout. I'm like, what in the hell are you talking about? So let's backtrack it, right? Because people think once a game starts, how it plays out is how it always plays out. Like there's nothing that one variable wouldn't change things a multitudinous of ways.
Correct.
And that, I'm like, how do you think that linearly when you're watching a football game? Let's just take everything out of the play we just talked about, the 4th and 3. Let's assume instead of a huge conversion on a 4th down to give them a 1st and goal, that's a turnover on downs. And remember, that ball goes back to the 30-plus yard line. So suddenly San Francisco's in much better field position. Okay. Yep. And are we just assuming that because San Francisco got the ball that Brock Purdy is naturally going to be injured? Like, no. Like, Purdy might not be in that formation. They might not have just stupidly twice decided to put a tight end on Hassan Reddick, who was the best player in the game for either team on Sunday. So if you take away that one play, it changes everything. Or at least it opens up the possibility for everything else to be changed. That's maybe suddenly Brock doesn't get hurt. Maybe suddenly they realize they're in this thing. They don't commit stupid penalties down the stretch. It changed everything. Don't tell me it didn't.
Yeah, and look, it's if you just look at two things, field position changes, with the turnover on downs, and the momentum of the turnover on downs changes everything. Now, if those two things happen, there's no telling, does that change the offensive play calling by Kyle Shanahan?
Correct.
Does it change the way in which they, for example, that play, I believe was a 3rd and 9 that Brock Purdy got hurt on.
Yeah.
Who can say that the plays on 1st and 2nd down of that drive are called differently and it's 3rd and 2? They're not even in that formation.
Correct.
All of that matters. And the other thing I would just add here on top of this is there were key penalties called in this game. It's not why necessarily the 49ers lost in a vacuum. But there were key penalties called that extended Eagles drives multiple times, not just on one drive, on a few scoring drives. The blocking, the roughing the punter, I was surprised it was roughing because it was his kicking leg and not his plant leg. And that's typically the differentiation between running into and roughing.
Right. And by the way, so just so people know, running into is a 5-yard penalty. So that's 4th and 1 still.
That's right.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I believe that player was blocked into the punter.
I don't disagree with you there either, which, by the way, would negate the penalty.
So this is where it gets a little – it got completely – now, look, was Josh Johnson – at that point, Josh Johnson's in at quarterback. Brock Purdy, let's not also discount the fact, Trey. We didn't even mention this yet. Maybe we did. Josh Johnson gets a concussion and leaves the game. Brock Purdy, who could not physically throw a football, had to come back in and play quarterback.
They threw. I think they threw one little swing pass to McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I mean, what if I told you, like, this is how crazy that game was. What if I told you that Brock Purdy would start and finish that game at quarterback? He wouldn't throw an interception and he wouldn't throw an incompletion, and they would lose 31-7.
That's right.
I mean, it's crazy. Setup right there. It's crazy.